Aye.
I guess we're all here.
Yes.
Good morning, everyone. We'll call the meeting of the College Council to order. Welcome, everybody. It's good to see people in person, and hopefully that will continue to be the case as we keep moving forward. Before we get started, I just want to announce that we have a few council members who are not here today for very good reasons. One is Councilmember Alex Hammond, who was deployed with the National Guard. He's in Germany at the moment. And even though Richard said that isn't a good excuse, we have excused Alex for that
That was
today. Jeff Cole, council member, is in Washington, D.C., courtesy of his paying job. And in addition, Steve O'Shaughnessy was going to be here, but we got word yesterday that there's a family health issue, and his daughter had a procedure in Boston, and there were some complications. So he's in Boston, so our thoughts are with him and his family as well. Okay, so now, moving right along, first order of business is always the approval of the minutes.
I'll second.
Well, how about that? Motion to accept. No, you do, that comes later, Richard.
It's always a race.
Yeah. Harold said he'd second that motion too when it was time. Everyone received a copy of the minutes, and I want to thank Caitlin Fuller, who is, among other things, the new secretary to the council. So thank you for all your assistance with that. So the motion's been made and seconded that the minutes be adopted as submitted. Is there any discussion? Any corrections, additions, deletions? Hearing none, all those in favor of adopting the minutes as submitted, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. We do have a quorum today. There are 5 of us here. 3 in Potsdam, me, Kylie, who is the president of the Student Government Association, and Rich Daddario. And joining us virtually are Harold Johnson from Watertown and Molly Clough from Messina. So thank you for all for being here. Okay, the chair's report is going to be brief. I know that makes you all very sad, but it makes me very happy. We're off to quite the start in this semester, and we're all thankful for that. And I'm going to give you a very brief update on the presidential search. And very brief because there's very little that I can say because of confidentiality. But I will make mention of that Alan Grant is a member of the search committee. Blair Medor is a member of the search committee. Is there anybody else in here? Steve O'Shaughnessy has just accepted because Alex, due to his National Guard duty, had to resign from the search committee, so Steve O'Shaughnessy is now the 3rd council member. Molly, myself, and Steve. So I want to thank everybody on the search committee. It's been a lot of work. I don't believe I'm breaking any confidentiality when I tell you that they were pleased with the size of the pool. I will say we've had over 100 applicants from all over. We're also pleased with the makeup of the pool. We've had male, female, LGBTQ, underrepresented. So we've got the whole ball of wax to begin with, and we all know how important that is, because if your pool isn't good, then your result isn't going to be good either. So we are, over the summer, everyone's been doing their homework, going over the resumes, the letters of interest. We have begun to narrow the pool with the idea that before the holidays, we will have finalist candidates on campus. We don't want to scare them away with ice storms, et cetera. But we're moving right along. The search committee is meeting again on Monday. And in the not too distant future, we will have more information to pass along.
Can I assume I'm no longer on the show?
No, I'm sorry, I'm looking at you and I'm like, oh my God.
Nice try, but no.
Yeah, nice try.
Because that would be okay with me if.
Yes, I've just
I
named
know
Richard
I
as
got
the,
something in my calendar.
you do, for Monday. 3 to 6, I think. Anyway, we're getting there. But I want you all to feel good about the fact that even though you haven't heard a lot, that's by design, because confidentiality is critical all the way through the process and even after the process. Nobody wants to hear on the street that, Kylie made it to the finals, but we didn't pick her. When we get to bringing the finalists to campus, that's when the veil is lifted.
Yeah.
And everybody gets to know who the finalists are and hopefully attend an open forum or a meeting with the students or faculty, senate, that kind of thing. Does anybody have any questions that I can answer? Not anymore. No, Richard's still on the committee. Sorry about that.
When do you think things will wrap up, June?
Well, our plan is to have the finalists on campus in person before the holidays.
Okay.
Once that happens, then the search committee will meet to narrow that down, because we can't send any more than 3 names to the chancellor. Because remember, it's her choice, And she brings it to the board, and the board is the decider. It's up to them. So we are hoping that it would be possible in December or January for us to have forwarded the names to SUNY Central to get on the agenda for the next big Board of Trustees meetings.
Has she suggested what she's looking for and given you guidelines, as she's done in the past?
She met virtually with the committee at the very beginning and did the charge. So we feel comfortable with that. And a lot of this is being done virtually, which is good in some instances, because now we have the addition of the technology like Zoom and Teams. Before it was just a telephone call, before people actually came to campus. But we said from the beginning that we insist that the finalists will be here in person for their 2 or 3 days, however it ends up being, so that we'll actually get to see them and meet them, which we think is important. And the candidates seem to be enthusiastic about coming here. And we have been honest in the prospectus, and the potential candidates have acknowledged that fact, that there are challenges that are not all unique to us. Part of it's the higher education climate. And that they found it refreshing that we were telling people where we are, what some of the challenges are, and that, you know, we're prepared to meet those challenges and continue on. They're very excited about the history of the college, even though we're old. We're the oldest in SUNY. They think it's pretty cool, and so do we. So we've been doing this for a long time, and we'll continue to do it for a long time. Okay, so that's enough about that, unless anybody else has any questions. Well, thank you for all your work, and thank you all for keeping an open mind as we move along in this process. It's not quick, but this is one of those, it's more important to get it right than to do it quickly, I guess. Sorry about that. All right, I'm done. And now I'm going to turn it over to Phil.
Thank you, Joan. Thank you, everybody. Special thanks to you, Caitlin Fuller, setting this whole thing up. There's a lot of moving pieces involved in this happening. Much appreciated. I'm just going to give a brief report, because in part you'll be hearing other reports. I don't want to tread on their territory. So I want to avoid repeating, in other words. I'll say something about the budget situation, something about the Middle States Accreditation Review process that we're in right now, and provide a few updates. In 2 key areas of enrollment, first-year student enrollment and graduate enrollment, our numbers are excellent this fall, and that's exciting. Overall, our head count isn't up yet, but the pattern that we're in now shows that it will be in the years coming. And it's very exciting. It has been very exciting. It was very exciting last week to see all these new students on campus, to meet with them, to feel their energy, to have Hosmer Hall filled with new students who were excited, who seemed to pay attention to me, gave me a hand. It was very uplifting. It's always uplifting at the beginning of the year. So yeah, in a few minutes, our Vice President for Enrollment, Pat Quinn, will give you more of the enrollment details. Right? Good, okay. In addition to tuition and fees that come from students who enroll at the college, we also garner revenue through the provision of valuable non-credit experiences. On that subject, I'm pleased to report that last year we created several non-credit micro-credential programs that, once we finish putting the necessary enrollment mechanisms into place, we'll both generate revenue for the college and serve the college mission. For example, serve teachers, grade school teachers in the field for their professional development. Another part of the budget is expenditure. I want to report that we found ways to realize savings this last year without layoffs. Just for example, we've opted not to use Knowles Hall for student residency this year, partly so we can gussy it up a little bit. It also, that has put us in a position to not replace 5 employees who left the college voluntarily. They resigned, they retired. We also reduced the number of administrative positions, again, without layoffs, in several areas. There's one fewer person in the president's office, one fewer person in residence life, for example, in the administrative side of things. We've also found ways to continue to provide external organizations with access to our wonderful campus facilities, while also consistently recouping the costs of that usage to the college. And that reduces expenditure for the college. So that's a step in the right direction. We're pleased about that. About the Middle States Accreditation Review. As you might know, the college this past summer in June received its periodic accreditation review from the Middle States Commission for Higher Education, known as Middle States for short. These reviews take place every 10 years, not just for us, but for every college and university accredited by the commission. This time around, the commission, based on our self-study and their review, deemed us to be in non-compliance as regards 2 of the 7 Middle States standards. And we got kudos, by the way, in many areas, and we're deemed to be in compliance and doing just fine regarding the other standards. 2 of the standards are in play here. Standard 5, which is about academic assessment, and Standard 6, non-academic assessment, budgeting, and financial viability. So we have work to do, but we can do it. We're actually in pretty good shape to respond such that we come back into compliance. Our response process includes the creation of 2 working groups, 1 on each standard. These are representative groups. They represent folks from across the campus, relevant stakeholders and the like. All college departments and divisions are currently gathering data that will be included in the report we submit to Middle States on March 1st. One thing that's going on here is that we're doing what we're supposed to be doing, or much of what we're supposed to be doing, virtually all, but we haven't compiled it necessarily in a way that makes it easy to find. We haven't publicized it on the web properly. And so we need to reveal more of that and then put a few final pieces in place. I want to say a couple things more about Middle States. First, the campus is rallying around this effort. And also, a note of reassurance, in case you need it, the college remains fully accredited. Being placed on warning as opposed to probation means that the commission has determined that we, SUNY Potsdam, have what it takes to come into compliance. And they're right, we do have what it takes. So we will get this done. It's not unusual for colleges to go through with this and deal with these processes. Okay, next, some updates. The New York State enacted budget. $60 million is allocated in support of SUNY towards operations and enrollment enhancement. We are eligible for $610,686 to be used in support of enrollment growth. We're also eligible for a grant of up to $125,000 to be used in support of the college's underrepresented minority students. And we have a great proposal to submit. We'll be submitting them next week, I think. I think that's when they're due. And it's one-time money, but this money, these funds will help us quite a bit, and we appreciate what the legislature has done and what SUNY has done. For example, this could support the digital marketing work that has really done great things for the college. A campaign we launched last January, I think, or February. Another update, the Tuition Assistance Program of New York State that supports students with financial need when it comes to their tuition. That program, access to that program for part-time students has been expanded. And that's going to help us grow enrollment and also help us to provide that many more persons of limited means, persons from backgrounds of disadvantage with access to higher education. Many college students can't manage to go to college full-time. And it's very important that they find a way, it's very important to them that they find a way to go part-time and get support. Another thing I want to announce is that the college's procurement, the world of procurement of contracts and buying things is huge, it's complicated, there's a lot of compliance rules and the like, many of them good rules. Our procurement is now being managed by the jointly administered Regional Financial Services Office under the able leadership of Sean Dermody. That office manages procurement for SUNY Potsdam and for SUNY Plattsburgh, and that has resulted in better planning, increased efficiencies, and the like. I'm pleased to announce also that the college leadership team now includes Vice President and Chief Diversity Officer, Dr. Jacqueline Richardson Malacio. Hi, Jacqueline. You will later in this meeting hear from her about all things DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion at SUNY Potsdam, and will thereby learn about the excellent work underway. The college, we continue to be, are and will continue to be deeply committed to being a place that welcomes and includes everybody. I'm also pleased to announce that on September 19th, a little over a week from now, the campus will welcome David Dobbin, Dr. David Dobbin, as our new Vice President for College Advancement. Dr. Dobbin will bring with him a wealth of experience, including his most recent service as Executive Director of Advancement and Foundation Operations at Elgin Community College. So we're very excited about the imminence of his arrival. Speaking of college advancement, I'm delighted to report that thanks to the incredible generosity of our alumni and friends, the 21-22 fundraising total exceeded $3 million last year. So that's pretty good. Those dollars will provide over $1 million for scholarships and nearly $750,000 for academic programs. Another update. September 30th, I hope you can join us for this. Cassie's Harp will be rededicated in its new location alongside Hosmer Hall. In that ceremony, the name of the late Beth Howell, class of 2022, will be added to the memorial stone that accompanies the sculpture. Cassie's Harp, first dedicated in 2011, is named in honor of the late Cassie DeVino. The harp and the garden by the harp serves as a place of quiet remembrance in honor of students who passed away while pursuing a degree at SUNY Potsdam. Next, on October 14th, we will celebrate the dedication of the Richard J. Del Judas Student Forum in the Union. Going along with that, Advancement has created an endowed fund which will bolster civil discourse activities on our campus. And this is inspired by Dr. Del Judas and also in his honor. Dr. Del Judas, Richard, served Potsdam in many roles and with excellence for 43 years, was very committed to civil discourse and reasoned exchange and inclusion, and it's going to be very emotional for me to be there for this event, partly because I worked with him for so many years, and I miss him. SUNY Potsdam will, in January, this next year, be the host for the Athletes Village for the FISU Winter World University Games, which is the largest multi-sport winter event in the world after the Winter Olympics. The college will also, along with the Olympic Center in Lake Placid, SUNY Canton, and Clarkson University, host the Games ice hockey contests. Very exciting. And finally, just recently I learned that Washington Monthly in its 2022 evaluation of liberal arts and sciences colleges, listed SUNY Potsdam 29th in the nation in the category of our contribution to social mobility, research, and the promotion of public service. This is a testimony to the great work done by the college in service to its students, its mission, and to the state. And that's a good note to end on. We're off to a good start this semester. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. Questions, comments? I have a question. Did you get us some information on what the SUNY rules are on open meetings now? Because the whole thing has been changing. And like local governments have all had to adopt a new local law explaining how some of it is if you have to have a quorum in physical person. And I don't know, I assume the system must have some kind of overarching, maybe that's the wrong assumption, but could we just find out?
We can find out. I
Yeah.
do not know.
Okay,
Yeah, I have no idea.
all right.
Officers in charge are supposed to know everything, but I don't know that.
Do I get a prize for stumping the
You
OIC?
do, yes, yeah.
Okay. Anything
I'll make
else?
a note of that,
No,
yeah.
thank you, all
Yeah.
right. So moving right along, Phil let the cat out of the bag already in his report
Oh.
about the naming, in
All right.
honor of Dr. Del Judas. But we've got Sherry Paradis with us today from Advancement, and Sherry, by the way, since Sal left, Sherry's been in charge and doing a fine job. And I know that Advancement is very glad that she stepped up to do that, and that Sherry, along with the whole Advancement team in the college, are awaiting our new vice president for Advancement. So Sherry, would you fill us in on the naming resolution?
Sure, so we're happy to present this for the council's consideration today, as
Oh.
Dr. Geiser mentioned. And I don't know if I should be where you can see me, I'm not sure, for those not in the room. So as Dr. Neisser mentioned, we are hoping to name the student forum, still not, oh, I am. For Dr. Del Judas. And so, as he mentioned, Dr. Del Judas worked here as an educator. He started at Potsdam in 1968. He was a pre-law advisor. He mentored colleagues and students alike. He was the politics department chair. He was also dean of liberal studies for a period. He received numerous president's awards and even a chancellor's award for excellence in teaching. For many of us as alums, we remember his courses in constitutional law, civil liberties, and perhaps maybe his most notable bioethics in the law. Some of us were afraid of him. Others really, Ellen chose not to take classes from him.
True.
Others, their careers were definitely guided with his support. So many Potsdam graduates who are lawyers today began their professional journey under him as one of his pre-law advisees. He was also academic advisor to the women's basketball team. So a lot of our athletic alums remember Dr. Del Judas for his role in their time here as well. So as you can imagine, his passing was upsetting for many of our alums, and they wanted to ensure that his legacy was remembered here at Potsdam. So several have come together to make gifts. We right now have gifts and pledges exceeding $100,000 to name both the space for Dr. Del Judas and also establish the fund that Phil mentioned that would encourage civil discourse. So I'm happy to present the resolution to you today for your consideration. I don't know if it's custom to read it or you all have it in your packets. How would you like to handle that, June?
Do we have it in our packet?
It's
an updated one.
Yeah.
That last night.
Yeah,
Oh.
it's,
I missed that.
13.
Would you like me to read it?
Hang
for
on a sec.
consideration?
I'll move the resolution if you want to just move the resolution.
Oh, there it is.
I'll second.
We leave, before we leave today, make sure I sign it.
Thanks, Harold.
And I actually will have a more formal one that our communications office will prepare for your signatures.
Okay. All right, so the resolution has
It's moved and
been
seconded
been
already.
moved and seconded. Is there discussion?
I'd like to add something.
Okay.
Just say, first of all, sorry for being a little precipitous or ahead of the game.
Well, you're the officer in charge, you're supposed to be head of the game.
That's what I thought, and for stealing your thunder and all, but you provided more information about Richard than I did, and that's really, really important to me, personally. I want to add something about Richard, which is that he championed women's basketball not just by being an advisor for the team, but, for example, why do the men's games start at 8 or 7
Right.
and theirs start at 5, and they should be every other set of games, it should be reversed,
Yeah.
and other steps that were taken to bring equity into that area. And he was relentless in his support of that.
It's also a space that's commonly used by students, so it'd be a great way to have students who don't know him to remember him and to honor the space. I know SGA uses that space a lot.
Very
And
good.
it is his wife's hope as well. We will have some signage in there that outlines the rules of civil discourse to ensure that it's a space that allows for conversation, open conversation. So
Could we get a copy of those rules so we could send it to
Absolutely,
Washington?
absolutely. So it'll be.
Just a quick, got a quick question along those lines. It's a question I got to ask. I'm sure I know the answer. But is there a regular review of the athletics to make sure that both male and females are treated equitably? I say that because we're going through that with the Watertown City School District, where there's been quite a turmoil regarding the girls' soccer team and how some are treated. The boys get uniforms, the girls don't. All sorts of inequity. And I trust that you guys, because you deal so much with this, that you've dealt with all those questions.
Eric, do you want to say something
Yes,
about
we
that?
actually have one of the assistant athletic directors is in charge of NCAA compliance, and that includes the Title IX pieces that Harold's referencing. So we submit annual reports and financials to make sure we're in compliance with scheduling and all the other things that the NCAA and SUNY Act require.
That's
Okay,
what I
thank-
understood. I think our improvement in that area happened a long time ago, so we were to a
Richard
degree,
was
we were
involved.
leaders in that area.
I remember him coming to
Yeah.
the Faculty Senate Student Affairs Committee
Yeah,
with that exact
probably-
topic.
Probably 10, 15 years ago, some
Oh, at least.
more, yeah. Yeah.
Well, and this year being the
Thank you.
anniversary of Title IX,
Yeah. Oh.
yeah, kind of puts the focus. Yeah. Okay, any other discussion on the resolution? Hearing none, all those in favor of naming the space and the new program in memory of Dr. Richard Del Giudice, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Passed unanimously. Thank you, Sherry.
So I will be sure that you all receive invitations to the dedication. Now that we have official approval, we will move forward with those invitations, and we'll make sure that you are invited to that on October 14th. As Phil mentioned, I heard him mentioning to June, there will be a number of activities that day, including a pre-law forum with some alums returning, as well as an alumni gathering. So hope that you're welcome to join us for that.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you very much.
Thank you, Sherry.
Okay, now the part of our agenda that we hear reports. And we're going to start with the guy who has the best shirt. And you can always tell that it's Friday when Blair has on one of his stellar, what does it say on there?
I have no idea. It's representative of the New York City
Oh,
transit system.
graffiti?
Yeah.
Yeah, transit
Oh.
system and graffiti. My stepfather worked for MTA for 30-plus years, and he got the shirt for me, because he loves everything to do with MTA and everything to do with trains, so. Would
Okay.
you like me to sit at the end of the table, or would you like me to
actually-
stand here, or?
I'm just trying to.
Would you like to sit, face the screen? You can sit right
I
here.
could sit
You
where,
could- you could-
You can probably sit and.
Molly's space, if
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
okay?
yeah.
Okay, that way everybody on screen can see
We'll
me.
know that you're not Molly.
Fair enough, fair enough. There's a written report in your packet for everybody to refer to, and I'm glad to talk about anything that's not in the report or details about things in the report. There was just 3 things that I really wanted to highlight about this. The first was that Dr. Neisser, in the spring, really instituted some steps to put the realignment plan onto a track that we can follow towards completion. And the faculty are glad that we have some more clarity where that's concerned. I would note that the realignment process that we went through was a very quick realignment process, and that, as our past dean, Galflesh, had mentioned before, if we follow national standards for a very careful realignment, it's a longer, pretty much 2-year type process that involves a lot of work in that regard. And I'm just would like to state for the record that, you know, we're going to advocate for that kind of longer, careful process to take place in the future. Not advocating it start right now or this year, but that we don't forget that this be part of our regular ongoing work. The second item I wanted to mention, since it happened since our last meeting, is graduation. I know that many people in this room were at graduation, and I appreciate everybody who was there. I thought graduation for me was a watershed moment in what's happened in our campus in recent years. We have been through so much turmoil, so much trouble, and graduation was absolutely glorious. The campus was beautiful, the weather was beautiful, there were thousands of people in place. Everybody I talked to who was a student was very happy. Everybody I talked to who was a parent was very happy. Everybody I talked to who was an employee was like, wow, I'm so proud to work at this place. And I think it just really reminded all of us of the sort of the joy that comes from and the value that comes from this academic experience. And I think that's so important, it's worth mentioning. With all the troubles we've had, that was a day of great joy. I spent most of the day standing next to Dr. Neisser as he delivered, I'm not sure how many different diplomas, quite a lot. And he did it with a smile every time for the long period and didn't ask for a break or anything. So it was really impressive, and I really enjoyed that. The third item that I wanted to mention, if I can remember from my sneak a peek, thank you very much. The third item that I wanted to mention was that was talking about planning. Dr. Neisser outlined that one of the issues that we particularly have to put more effort into based upon our Middle States review is our planning processes, and especially how they relate to budgeting. And it's no secret that for years, even before COVID, I was pushing our administration to undertake new plans, to work in that regard, and we were waylaid by any number of things that took place, and COVID really pushed that all to one side. When Dr. Graham was here, we were able to put to rest the last plan that we have, and Dr. Neisser and Provost Hirscher really recognized how important it was for us to have a ongoing plan in place as part of our Middle State efforts. And so they put together a group that met. They did a lot of legwork beforehand and put together a group that met in August in order to try to put together a short 12-month to 18-month kind of plan that we can use for our work going forward. And I want to thank them for doing that because I think it's crucially important. But I also want to thank them for the tone of the meeting. And I think this is really important. We have had many presidential, council, faculty senate meetings before. They're always interesting. The tone's always cordial. This was different. There was a different group of people in the room. There was a sense of openness and freshness that I have not encountered in years. And I really feel like we're off to a new start in a way that's really productive. And I want to thank them for making that possible. I'd be willing to stand for other questions.
Thank you, Blair. Questions, comments? And thank you, Blair, for doing what you do, working overtime. And I see you got a few more people to fill the holes on the faculty senate.
We are doing really well. Sheila Neal from ART has agreed to be our faculty senate secretary, and she's been working very hard at that job already, and I am greatly relieved thereof.
You didn't have one all last year.
And I had no secretary for all of last year, and Jessica Rogers.
He was his own secretary.
We let a lot of the job slide, to be honest with you, and then we did what we had to do. And Jessica Rogers is the vice chair for faculty senate, and she's phenomenal. And I couldn't be happier to have her in that place, and you're going to see it's going to make a huge difference in what we're able to do this year.
Great. Thank you very much. Next, we're going hear from Interim Provost Alan Hirscher.
I guess, Blair, I'll follow your lead. That's what I'm doing here. We all get to be Molly for a little bit, so. Thank you very much, Jude. It's good to see you all. I just, Phil didn't mention me as a new person, which I appreciated, because I have been actually in the provost office for 5 years now. Blair and I were presenting to the new faculty a couple days ago, and I mentioned that SUNY Potsdam has given me opportunities that I would not have had anywhere else in my professional career. So I'm actually really pleased to be in a position to give back as interim provost until we fill that. As you may or may not know, Betty Bergeron has stepped back to faculty. We're really grateful that Betty is going to continue to be involved with campus, helping Dean Grant and the School of Education and Professional Studies with assessment. So we're really fortunate that we can rely on Betty's considerable chops when it comes to the assessment. I think we just want to mention two things. You do have an academic affairs report. Feel free to reach out to me if you've got any questions. But academic affairs for this year, our two priorities are assessment in middle states and enrollment. And Phil has talked about enrollment, or I'm sorry, about assessment. I do want to note that we're really approaching this in academic affairs. We have to bring ourselves back into compliance with middle states with assessment. But the way we're approaching this in academic affairs is assessment is a tool. And really what we're doing here is we're refining our processes for continual improvement. We're making sure that we're creating a culture of assessment, but we're actively using that assessment data to affect change and to make us even better at doing what we do and improving the student experience. The second thing I'd like to mention, and Blair noted the academic realignment. I know that's gotten some media. As a quick update to that, what we've done, I don't want to go too much in the weeds, but as a quick update to that, all of the programs that were identified as facing challenges submitted action plans, so their deans, which were approved, with deadlines, with benchmarks, and the deans, the programs, and I are working together to help address those challenges. I'd also note, I guess, kind of in conclusion, that I think I agree with Blair. It's a good vibe on campus right now. You all may know that we have a second chance Pell program, and that we teach classes at Riverview Correctional Facilities in Ogdensburg. And I wanted to share with you that over the summer I had the opportunity to teach a course at Riverview, and it really made me realize the impact of what we do on this campus. And teaching that course was amazing for the students, but it was really also a transformative experience for me. And it helped me remember why I do what I do, and I think why we all do what we do here. So I want to thank everybody, I guess, for the contributions you make to the college. So, any questions?
Questions, comments? So you had a captive audience, is that what you're telling me?
Well, it's actually, I have very poor filters to begin with, you, and you know that. You've known me long enough. And I did actually have to catch myself several times because I actually did refer to a captive audience to them. And the guys actually
And
had
hopefully they laughed.
they had a good sense of humor. So
That's important.
Well, they can't cut class. They can't cut class.
actually, they cannot cut class. Yeah. Thank you all. Let me know if you have any questions.
Thank you. Now, we have the administrative division report in our packet. I don't see Melissa.
Melissa wasn't able to be here.
Okay,
Yes.
so I refer you back to her report, and if you have any questions, you know where to find her. All right. Sherry?
Take Molly's seat this time for
Yep.
the standing awkward thing in the front corner. So you have the advancement report. I guess just a couple of things that I would be happy to highlight. As Phil shared, we were able to exceed our fundraising goal last year, raising over $3 million. So we're very grateful to our alumni and friends who made that possible. That was due in large part to the SUNY Tax Credit Program. It was an initiative from SUNY for folks who have a tax liability which exceeds $10,000 in New York State taxes. They would be able to make a gift to a SUNY campus, we hope Potsdam, and they receive an 85% tax credit on their New York State taxes and 15% tax deduction on their New York State and federal taxes. So I mention that because it is a program that we're excited is in place again for 2022. So I would ask that any of you who are interested in that program, please let us know, or if you know of folks who are interested in that program or could benefit from it. We had several donors who didn't even have connections to the college that heard about it, and it was kind of a no-brainer that they participate. So we were really excited to help them with their problem and make a difference at Potsdam. So that was a large reason why we were able to increase unrestricted dollars to the campus last year. So we hope to be able to do the same. I also wanted to mention that Potsdam is quietly starting our next comprehensive campaign. We started it on July 1. We are not in the public phase yet, but we are quietly starting to fundraise for our next campaign. So you'll be hearing more about that in the coming years, but we are excited to start that next initiative, which we hope will raise between $40 and $50 million for the campus. So looking forward to starting that next endeavor. I'm happy to take any questions. I don't want to repeat everything that's in the report.
Well, we're up for a new campaign.
Yes, it's always been a fun source of energy for the campus to dream a little bit about what's possible and to align our fundraising fully with campus priorities. So we're looking forward to being a part of that.
Is there a maximum amount to get the tax credit?
It's $10,000 to $100,000.
You could give the 50
List of
million,
names.
Richard.
Feel free to reach out to me, and we can certainly help folks with that. Great.
Right, or just write the check for 50 million and then the campaign is over. No, then what they do is up it to 100,000 and announce that we're halfway there.
That would be okay too.
Yeah,
Mhm.
all right.
I'm sure Phil wouldn't mind.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Pat Quinn is going to give us the good news about enrollment.
I don't mind sitting at Molly's space. It's a nice
Molly doesn't
Irish
mind.
lass's name. Being Irish, I can appreciate that. Yeah, so our enrollment report is in the packet. And, I'd always like to start off with saying that, our success on the enrollment side is never due to any one thing that, myself individually or the admissions team does. It's really a kind of a campus-wide effort. So I really want to thank my campus colleagues, faculty, staff, offices that have participated and made this a successful year. I think the other kind of arm, right hand of what we do on the enrollment side is marketing communications. They do an incredible job, a heavy lift, like a lot of offices, doing a lot with little in terms of resources. We're grateful for the foundation funds that we were able to use to put that campaign into place for the spring, the digital campaign, and it's yielded some really good results. I want to thank the enrollment team, which includes admissions, financial aid, and student accounts. And, individuals, quite honestly, a lot of ideas and opportunities really arise when you have conversations with people. You walk across campus, you run into a faculty member, you run into a student, you run into a staff member. And I always find not only does it kind of give me more energy, but it kind of renews me in terms of, my optimism for what we can accomplish as a group. So I'm really pleased with that. I'd like to point out that, I just took a tour of Crane and the renovations in Crane, and I have to tell you, you got to get over there and see it. It's incredible. For people who know Crane and have been around the facility, it's an impressive project that was completed in kind of near record time. I don't want to put too much pressure on Will and his team, but I'm expecting another 25 to 40 Crane students next fall, but that's okay. Facilities do sell. Of course, we have the band shell that's being completed, and that's a great space for students and participants. And I'd like to close with what I'm saying is kind of our priorities on the enrollment side, and you're going to hear some things that you wouldn't expect an enrollment person to say. Middle states. That's a priority for enrollment, not only because we're part of that process in terms of assessment, but I'm co-chairing with Matt LeBeer, Standard 6. And the great thing about being part of that group is I get to really interact with, different people that I wouldn't normally, so faculty and other staff, so I'm really excited about that. That's definitely a priority. Obviously, enrollment growth, that's a priority. And in the packet, we've talked a little bit about, what our goals might be for the upcoming year, so keep your eyes on that. And then the third thing is really to help stabilize our business affairs office. We know we're in transition there. We've moved away from our relationship with Plattsburgh on the business affairs side, not on the procurement, but working with the team, which is also stressed, working with Nick Lano, who's our special advisor to SUNY. And I'm knee-deep in things with them as well, but again, it gets me meeting with different people and hearing different things and how we can kind of pull that all together to make our programs more successful. So I'm happy to take any questions.
Questions?
How about retention?
Great question, and actually I just shared some information. Actually, our retention rate, and when we speak of retention, primarily statistically and for all the reports, it's usually based on your first-year student, so how many of your students you enrolled in a particular fall semester return for the spring. Last year, we dipped to about 67%, which was, probably close to a 10-year low. We, in terms of where we are enrollment-wise, it's close to 75% this year. Now, granted, we had a much smaller freshman class, but that extra 6, 7, 8% does make a big difference in the returning numbers. Our beds, we're actually over our budget projection in terms of students living in housing, so that helps on the, the revenue side as well. So retention is on the uptick, and Sean Partridge and his team have, done an awful lot of work to make that possible.
Can I ask what a reasonable goal for retention is? Like what is achievable at a comprehensive college in the SUNY system?
My perspective, and I've had a chance to work both in the public and private, I think typically the private sector, and I would consider like mid to upper level academic reputation, for better or for worse, they typically shoot for a goal of 80 to 85%. Some of the private schools that I've worked at, if we were to achieve 75% for student success retention, that would be a solid number. And if you look at national averages, typically four-year public institutions have a much lower student success or retention rate. So 75% is good. I would say that should always be our baseline goal, and then where we see we can make improvements, whether it's providing more financial resources, more academic support, whatever it might be, can get us to that 2, maybe improve by 2% each year. We're never going to have 100% retention. I mean, even places like Harvard and Princeton don't retain 100% of their students. But I think 75% is a good baseline, and try to make incremental improvement each year.
Thank you.
Sure.
Does the retention rate take into consideration transfers as well as just dropouts?
Yeah, and we can break out statistics. Transfer students typically will have a higher retention rate, obviously because they've been through another experience and they're pretty sure and confident that they've made the right decision as to where they're going to be for the next couple of years, 2 to 3 years. So typically they might be 3 to 5% higher on average.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any way to track, when you lose students, is there any way to track why the student left? Whether it's financial, whether it's just academic, or whether or not they just don't want to be here?
Yeah, so we do try to collect information, and it's kind of like when you say hot off the presses, you want to get to them before they physically leave, because then once you open it up to following up, surveying, emails, they tend not to respond. A lot of times, historically, what will happen is a student will tell you what they think you want to hear. A lot of students don't want to talk about, if they're having trouble, adjusting socially. They might say, my family's having financial issues. So that you might hear that. That might be a common theme. But in reality, it's never one thing. But typically, it's affordability. Their family's struggling, in particular the last 2 years. Maybe the program that they thought they wanted isn't what they are here for, and they choose to go elsewhere. And then, of course, I think the adjustment socially. The categories of students that retain at ideal or higher rates would be our student athletes, because they have motivation, they're on a team, they're connected to other students. And then our students in our Bridges and our EOP program retain at a higher rate. And again, that's because they're connected to a community right out of the gate. Same thing with Crane. Crane students have that community right out of the gate. Whereas a student who's undecided, exploratory, they do have a connection to a program, but it's not really the same. It's not life outside the classroom, which is important.
Residential students also are typically higher.
Yes. Right.
For the same reasons.
That's it, thank you.
Okay, great.
Thank you, Pat.
Sure.
Before we move along to Eric, I just want to introduce to you our interim dean of the School of Arts and Sciences. I'm gonna try this. Shiho, am I? Because it was not written out phonetically for me. So welcome, and thank you for being our interim dean. We look forward to working with you. Okay, now Eric is going to talk to us about student affairs.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks for having us here. It's, as June said, great to be back in person. The Student Affairs report that's in your folders is a combination of a summary of last year, activities, and some statistics in departments, as well as some information for the start of this year. As Phil mentioned earlier, we are off to a terrific start for the year. We had terrific numbers for student participation in our opening welcome weekend events that Campus Life put on. We had just over 750 unique students attend different events, and almost 7,400 total students at the welcome weekend activities. So just tremendous involvement. And a number of those things happened before all of the students were back. So that's a lot of our new students, transfers included, getting engaged on campus. I probably can't give a report without at least mentioning COVID, because I've done that all choked up for a number of years now. SUNY, thankfully, has given a lot more authority to the campuses to dictate COVID policies. In fact, we just had an update earlier this week. So largely we are relying on students and employees to report their symptoms in their testing. We're no longer doing any testing ourselves. We're no longer hosting the state site. We do have cases on campus. We do have approximately 30 or 35 students currently in our isolation area. Students are in there for about 5 days and then are allowed to come out. Current guidelines don't require much at all in terms of quarantine. So certainly COVID is here. Some of our numbers are up a little bit with students and faculty being gathered in campus, residence halls, classrooms, but our student health team continues to do a great job working with those folks in residence life as well. Kylie can certainly give SGA updates, but their group is back with a lot of energy and enthusiasm and ideas. Pat Quinn mentioned the band shell. Student Government Association has funded a project over in Marshall Park, which is a grassy area between some of our residence halls, to fund an outdoor amphitheater type experience. The motivation from this was in remembrance of Beth Howell, to have an outdoor space. So that's coming along nicely, and I think Physical Plan is finishing that up, and that'll be a great addition to our campus for Crane and other musical students. So, I think with that being said, I'm happy to answer any questions, and again, Kylie, you're welcome to jump in with any updates from student government, because you're off to a good start too.
Okay, so the band show should be done by October 1st. We're planning a ribbon cutting ceremony. We're really taking a lot of feedback from Crane students because it is something for them. So if you would like to be involved in the ribbon cutting event, if you'd like to be there, if you'd like to speak, please reach out to me. Yes, we're donating the space to the campus, but we would really like to be involved in this opening. So if you hear anybody else planning one, just let me know.
I know Sherry, who
Oh,
left, and
perfect.
the advancement
Yeah.
folks are also involved as
Perfect.
well, so I'm
Perfect.
happy to help with that too,
Thank
Kylie.
you. But yeah, so we're working on that and really taking guidance from students on what they want, because it is their money that was donated to get this. So we really want it to be student-centered. And SGA is doing great. We've had the most students this last 2 meetings, and our first meeting wasn't even like a real meeting. It was just like a come hang out with us. We're planning monthly events every month. So this month we are not doing anything because we did like welcome weekend and stuff, but we're gonna have themed assemblies. So at the end of the month, we're having a colored themed assembly, and we're gonna like wear different colors, and like it will be super fun. And next month we're doing some kind of Halloween bash, and we're gonna have clubs there handing out candy and have it be just this event that students can go to in case they don't want to do any other Halloween events. And we're gonna have a costume contest, which will be super fun. But yeah, the band show is coming along. It should be done by October 1st. We're super excited about that. And my one thing is if you guys have committees and it's about a student issue, please contact me. I can get you a student for the committee, because that will help you solve some student issues. That's all I got. Thank you for yielding some of your time to me.
My pleasure.
Just, we need to remember for the next council meeting that Kylie also gives a report from the SGA.
Yeah, I think I didn't send you
Yeah,
one.
yeah, I didn't hear
I
back,
dropped
but
the ball.
Okay.
Diane just said sometimes if it's the beginning of the school year, she probably has a lot to do with
Right.
deadlines. Yes.
Okay, questions, comments for Eric or Kylie? Thank you both very much.
Yeah, thank you.
And our final report on DEI is our brand-new Chief Diversity Officer, Jacqueline Richardson Molisiar.
Thank you and good morning to everyone. I'm so pleased to be able to join you this morning. I know that you have the report I submitted, so that has a lot of details, but what I want to highlight is I joined the campus in May, and I want to say how pleased I am to be part of the campus community. It has been such a warm welcome. I've been able to meet folks around the campus, and I have to say the last 2 weeks has been really great to see the students back. When I started, they were sort of on their way out, so it's really exciting. I want to share that the theme this year really has been, is going to be community. Community building. And I see a lot of the work, or the essence of the work of the Diversity and Inclusion Division as really looking at how are we living out and affirming our commitment to diversity and inclusion on this campus. And I've been so pleased from day one that there has really been openness about having discussions about bias, about racism, and other issues that impact the experience of inclusivity on our campus and the experience that students are having in their belonging. And there has been such a commitment across all of the departments on this campus. And I'll give you some examples, before students even arrived on campus, we had held about 3 or 4 bias trainings for all resident staff. Other departments have also held trainings. I was able to do a presentation to all the students in leadership roles. There are various collaborations taking place and programs that will address issues. We are also working on a speaker list for the Center for Diversity, because we have students that have interests across very broad areas, and we want to make sure that we're able to provide those engagement opportunities on our campus. In the approach to this work, I think it's important, and it has been welcomed, being able to look across all critical areas, be they policy, practice, education, our engagement opportunities, our messaging and our communications around issues of diversity and inclusion, and of course assessment and evaluations. And the work is being done, the conversations are taking place, and that has been such an important piece. We know that we have also gone through some changes in staffing. My position being one, I'm also happy to announce that at the Center for Diversity, we've hired a program coordinator, Sean Ramos, who is familiar with our campus, is a graduate of our campus, has a master's degree and bachelor's from Potsdam, and he has just hit the ground running. We've already held the very first program with student association representatives, and we were able to sort of brainstorm. We want to make sure that whatever we do at the Center for Diversity is reflective of what the students want to see and that their voices are there. So we had a really wonderful and engaging meeting with students and did some brainstorming on programming and have various events that we're organizing. The other piece I want to mention that is important when it comes to diversity and inclusivity and the experience of our students is the engagement of our students with our external community here in the Adirondacks and the familiarity with all that the Adirondacks has to offer, which we know is a lot. So we are very pleased to continue our relationship with the Adirondack Diversity Initiative and with the Adirondack Experience. They are in full support of Potsdam and very much want to continue that relationship, and we'll be sponsoring programs throughout the year for our students. The other pieces that I'll mention that are in your report, we do continue to have the BERT bias incident reporting platform on our website for everyone to use. We've also formed a community wellness and safety committee, and that committee is really a collaborative approach in our addressing any concerns that students may have, anything that impacts our students. On that committee, we have representatives from the University Police, from guidance, from health, Title IX, I'm forgetting someone, and others on the campus, but it's really taking a wraparound approach to the wellness of our students and everyone on this campus. But I want to just say, you have the report, I'll answer any questions you have, but I'm just pleased to be here, and it's really been a collaborative dialogue on this campus. There hasn't been anyone that I've reached out to that hasn't said yes, and so it's been wonderful so far. Okay, I'll answer questions. I'll stop there.
Okay, thank you. I'm delighted to have you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any questions?
Yes, I do have a question.
Yeah.
What kinds of programs does a program coordinator try to put in place on a campus like this?
Oh, sure. So we have various, there's certainly social events, extracurricular activities, but there are mentorship type workshops with different topics of conversation, be they related to diversity or career options. Those are some of the types of programs that we put in place here. And we also have several student associations that have requested assistance from the Center for Diversity in collaborations, because they also want to reach out and do programs with local schools in the area and other types of community service works. So those are some examples of the types of programs that we oversee. You're welcome.
Questions, comments?
Thank you.
Welcome again.
Thank you.
Any old business? This is not the time to joke about my age, but is there any old business? Hearing none, how about some new business? A reminder that our next meeting is November 4th, and that's right after election, I believe.
Right before election, I think, isn't it?
It can't be before.
Oh, yeah, so it's usually the first Tuesday in November, right?
It's the first Tuesday after the first Monday.
Election day is November 8th,
November.
Oh, 8th, all right.
because the November 1st is a Tuesday.
Is it, all right, so that's why, because it's after the first Monday. Anyway, hopefully we don't have to worry about that. And anything else that we forgot?
Harold, you want to handle the adjournment this time?
I move we adjourn.
I second.
Second that.
Well said,
We've got,
Howard.
Rich, we've got it down pat, don't we?
All right, so the motion's been made and seconded that the meeting be adjourned. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. All those stay till November 4th. All right, have a safe trip back, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.